Welcome back to Daily Flash.
Hey, I'm Mitch English, along with Andrea Jackson.
Yes.
He has actually spent the last 3 decades. He travels to more than 70 countries.
Yeah, he's been bit, chased, shot at, jailed, and had his finger stitched back on twice. That's just a Tuesday, I think.
Right.
I know. He is wildlife photographer Jason Edwards, and he's joining us now to discuss his new book, Icebergs to Iguanas. Please welcome to the show, Jason Edwards.
Hey, Jason. Welcome to Daily Flash.
Thanks, John.
Tell me about
Thanks for having me.
Jason, tell me about your connection with animals. Was it something you're like, hey, they make great subjects because they're easier to you take pictures of? Like, give us a little bit about your background.
So I actually grew up in what would be regarded as a halfway house for wildlife. My father was a long-haul truck driver, always bringing home injured owls and kangaroos and things like that. So there were snakes in the backyard, reptiles. So I never really knew a childhood without the immersion of wildlife. And then I became a zookeeper at 18 for 12 years, working with big cats and primates. So I think my degrees are all in the animal sciences. I think I was just destined to go down that path.
Nice.
Your work with National Geographic has taken you to every single continent. What are some of the most memorable moments from your journeys around the world?
That's a great question. I mean, it's one of the things after more than 30 years on the road is to try and find everything and everyone interesting. Otherwise, it's really hard to leave home. I've got a family, of course. But I mean, when you get the opportunity to sleep in trees, 10 feet above lions, see 2 lions below you and see the light change over ice in Antarctica, or a storm in the Amazon once took 45 minutes to reach me, and it sounded like there was a steam train coming through the forest. I mean, all of these opportunities are just staggering, let alone the Indigenous people that I get to work with around the planet.
You are obviously not afraid to take chances here, but imagine that comes with extreme patience, because we only get to see the end result.
Yes.
We don't see how much work that it takes to get that one shot, let's say of a rare hummingbird or something. I'm just picking this out. How much preparation does it take? Or is it like, hey, I'm walking along and you see a hummingbird and take a picture? Walk us through that. I want to know.
Well, actually, sometimes it is. You're walking along and then that thing is there. But I mean, a good example, there's a really rare mammal in Australia called a northern hairy-nosed wombat. It took 3 years for myself and a journalist to convince an editor to let me sit in a tree for 5.5 weeks. I sat in that tree for 20 hours a day, covered in swarm ticks, which if you scratch the bites, it's like having the mange and you can't stop. But I couldn't move because the animal's so timid. I took 1 photo in 5.5 weeks, and it took my wife 9.5 months with tick tweezers to get all of the ticks off my body. So
Wow.
that one shot wasn't even very good. I had to go back. It was a terrible photo. It was a terrible photo.
No.
But that was hard. That was hard work. It was, and you're sitting there, and during the day it's like 120, and at night it's 0. And this animal's nocturnal, so basically I'd get there when it was 120 and have to wait until it got to 0.
How you do it, man. Wow.
All night until the sun came up. So,
and to hear that story, can I
It's
say something? Jason, to hear that story makes you appreciate what you do more, because we live in a world of AI where like, say, show me the wild-tailed herring in a tree and it's not real. For you to do that gives me that much more appreciation for what you do and wildlife photographers do as well.
Yeah, when you see these images, it looks so amazing, but there's also serious risk involved, not only patience. Did you ever think, you know what, this might be a little bit too dangerous?
Only once I had Will, my son. That's when it changed a little bit initially. And I think the first few years at home, Geographic actually kept me at home so that I would have that time with Will. But once he got older and I still had to get on planes and go to unstable countries politically or on dangerous shoots, the psychology had to shift. And to be honest, Megan, my wife's amazing. She's so pragmatic. At one point, I was so distressed on a shoot. It was unstable. I wasn't distressed for that, but she said, you need to make a decision here and now. You are getting on planes and doing what you've always done, putting yourself at risk. And I have had so many diseases. If you can think of a disease or a rebuild, I have had it. I've had disc punched out, fingers slashed, arms ripped, my head stitched back, flap stick back on a few times, and insects living behind my eyeballs. And she says to me, you got to get on that plane, because if you don't, you need to find something else to do that keeps you at home.
That's
And I don't think
incredible.
our marriage had survived me being at home the whole time, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Hey, you talked about one of the most patience thing. Yeah, you got to be a patient father. I mean, wow, first off. But let's talk about some of the magical experiences that maybe an experience that you had that maybe might have changed your life, or really just said, along with what your wife's support, was a really magical experience. Can you share that with us?
For sure. So it was actually one of my first shoots, actually my first shoot in Africa. So decades ago, and I'd been on the road for 3.5 months, and this wildebeest herd approaches this river and starts crossing. Crocodiles are grabbing them, lions are grabbing them, and the herd fractures. And the sky turns this ashen grey, and the herd moves across, and a single giraffe moved into the herd for protection of wildebeest.
Uh-huh.
And the picture's in the book, you'll see it in the book. And it must have hit a high point in the ground because the giraffe looks even larger than giraffes are. And I sat there at that moment. I only took 2 frames. And that frame to this day is the frame that I connect myself. That changed my life, my career path, and to be quite honest with you, who I was as a person and how
Wow.
I saw the world. Because it was just so magical, so biblical, if you like. It was so spiritual for me to see that scene that I thought to myself, this is where I'm meant to be. This is what I'm meant to do. And I was fortunate enough as a young person to have a passion and have some skill
I love
and to
that.
manage to do a career in that. Yeah.
Jason, wow, incredible, right?
Amazing. Jason, we could talk to you all day.
No kidding,
Thank you
right?
so much for joining us. Jason's new book, From Icebergs to Iguanas, is now available on Amazon. You can also find out more about Jason at his website, jasonedwards.co.
And again, get this book because it'll appreciate what photographers have to do
Amazing
and what
stuff.
art really is. Really, really